This is the only photograph of Guzenko ever released to the public, and it was not published until after his death in 1982. While working at the Soviet embassy, Guzenko had become dismayed by the fact that his superiors already were preparing for a new war following the defeat of Germany, a war against the entire non-communist world. As a code clerk, he had access to all secret communiques, and he brought many of these with him to prove the truth of his allegations. Wearing a hood here to preserve his anonymity as a protection against reprisals, Guzenko revealed that there was a group of Canadian citizens with important positions within their government who in reality were agents of the Soviet Union. But the most electrifying disclosure of all was that the network included one of the top scientists working in cooperation with the United States on the atomic bomb project. His name was Dr. Alan Nunn May. Dr. May was a nuclear scientist on loan from the British government. He was second in authority only to the head of the Canadian project. He had access to all data concerning the processing of fissionable materials. He had provided the Soviets with information about the secret test of the bomb in New Mexico, about uranium production schedules in Canada, and he had delivered to them actual samples of uranium. When confronted with the evidence, Dr. May confessed that everything Guzenko had revealed was true. Another British scientist on loan to the United States was Dr. Emil Klaus Fuchs, who had been assigned to work at the top secret facility at Los Alamos, New Mexico. He was one of the few people at that time who had knowledge of how to construct the bomb trigger mechanism. Under questioning, Dr. Fuchs confessed that he also had been working with the communist underground and that he had given the Soviets drawings and detailed instructions on how to assemble and explode the atomic bomb. The confession of Dr. Fuchs led investigators to an American chemist by the name of Harry Gold, who was the man who hand-delivered the vital documents and drawings to the Soviet Vice Consul in New York. When Gold was confronted with Dr. Fuchs' testimony, he too confessed, and this led to the exposure of a network of American citizens who were in a position to channel top-secret nuclear information into Soviet hands. The trail led to David Greenglass, the man who made the actual drawings of the bomb's trigger mechanism, and to his sister, Ethel Rosenberg, and her husband, Julius, who were convicted and executed for their part in coordinating the espionage operation. At the conclusion of the trial, federal judge Irving Kaufman declared that this was the crime of the century. He said, "I have searched my conscience to find some reason for mercy. It is not in my power to forgive you." Also convicted at the same trial was Morton Sobel, who had attempted escape to Mexico to avoid prosecution. And finally, the trail of espionage led to Professor Philip Morrison, who admitted earlier Communist Party membership and who had access to virtually all secrets of the A-bomb while employed at the Manhattan Project. In retrospect, it is now clear that the detonation of the Soviets' first nuclear weapon in 1949 was an achievement not of research and science, but of espionage and subversion. Following the disclosure of the Soviet theft of America's nuclear technology, congressional committees began to take an interest in learning more about communist penetration into government. In 1947, for example, Louis Boudens was called to testify before the House Committee on Un-American Activities. He had served as the managing editor of the official communist newspaper, The Daily Worker, and had been a member of the party's national committee. Boudens later revealed that one of the government's most respected experts on China, Owen Lattimore, was a member of the communist underground.
In this cell, there was also Owen J. Lattimore. This I know from reports received in the Politburo and given to me officially as managing editor of the Daily Worker.
Owen Lattimore was the man who was sent to China by President Roosevelt to serve as the official U.S. advisor to Chiang Kai-shek, the nationalist Chinese leader who then was struggling to prevent a communist takeover of his country. John Stuart Service was another State Department China expert who came under investigation. In 1945, Service was found responsible for transmitting hundreds of classified and top-secret documents to the staff of Amerasia magazine, a communist-controlled publication. There they were copied and transmitted to the Soviet Union. Service was reprimanded for indiscretion, but not released from employment. In fact, he was later promoted to head of the State Department's information